One is building machine-like control in the gym. The other is built on pure chaos. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is protecting a perfect 50-0 legacy, while Mike Tyson walks into this with a mindset that anything can happen the moment the bell rings. So the real question isn't who's training harder, it's whether control can survive chaos when these two finally collide. With just 1 month remaining before stepping in with Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather Jr. isn't carrying himself like a retired legend soaking in the spotlight. He's moving like a man determined to protect his legacy.
He said, how you like a big? I'm an old man. I'm an old man. So record the old man. Oh. Whoa.
Because 50-0 isn't just a number. It's a legacy that comes with no reset button. People see the cars, the watches, the lifestyle, and assume the hunger is gone. But that's the biggest mistake anyone can make when it comes to Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Right to him. I catch it. Flip, bro. I should. Right, flip. Stop. Slip, bro. Slip is that roll. Hachi. Bro.
Behind all that flash is a routine that borders on obsessive, especially when it comes to the heavy bag work. No rounds, no bell to save you, just 20 to 40 minutes of non-stop, controlled punishment. Floyd Mayweather Jr. flows, resets, then suddenly explodes with sharp combinations, like he's reminding the bag exactly who it belongs to. He might pause briefly for water, but there's never a true break, just a relentless rhythm that builds what most fighters lose over time: elite conditioning. And that's the part people often overlook, that we've never really seen Floyd Mayweather Jr. fade. Not late in fights, not under pressure, not even when things get chaotic. His legs stay active, his reflexes remain sharp, and his punches still snap like it's round one. even when everyone else is slowing down.
Right hand hook. Hook in. Hook right hand.
That doesn't happen by accident. It's built in sessions like this, where fatigue is the real opponent and he refuses to lose. While the world debates spectacle, money, and narratives, Floyd Mayweather Jr. is in the gym, quietly sharpening the one thing that has defined his entire career: control.
Tell everybody this. The last time I made 25 million, I made more, but last time I made 25 million was 10 years ago.
Wow.
I'm not bragging or boasting. I'm just telling the truth. I'm appreciative and thankful. $25 million is still great money.
Sure.
But
it's not Mayweather money.
Well, you know, for the last, I don't know how many years, my guaranteed lowest is be like 32, a little bit over 32. That's my lowest. But you'll also know that in the Canelo fight, you know, I made over 100 million in that fight. And then in a Pacquiao, just in 2 fights.
Oh my God.
Pacquiao and Canelo, those 2 fights, somewhere upwards of 400 million. I mean, probably $400 million or better. And just me and sponsorship money. Leading up to the Pacquiao fight, that week I made somewhere 25 to 30 million.
Wow. That's crazy.
So these are my numbers. And, you know, they can say Floyd lying all they want to. If I was so desperate and hurting for money, I'll come back.
And just as you're watching Floyd Mayweather Jr. turn the heavy bag into a long-term conditioning experiment, Mike Tyson enters the conversation like a man who doesn't believe in experiments. Only outcomes, chaos, and what happens when 2 fighters share the same ring. The interviewer throws out the classic question, asterisk, how do you beat the shoulder roll? Asterisk Tyson shrugs it off with asterisk anything can happen. Asterisk it sounds simple, but that's the mindset of a pressure fighter. No blueprint, no calculations, just timing, presence, and that one moment when structure breaks. But what really shifts the tone is Tyson pivoting away from the fight entirely, speaking about his invitational as if that's the real mission. Almost like the bout itself is just a side note.
Phenomenal shape. You look shredded. You're supposed to fight Floyd next month, correct?
Yeah, next month from now, we ready, whatever.
How do you beat the shoulder roll? He's 50 and over.
Huh?
How do you crack the shoulder roll?
Happens, you never know. Hey, listen, I think this established my importance in the boxing world more so than the amateur, than the professional fighting, because this is the future. You know, Mike Tyson got a great name in Minnesota.
He straight up says his legacy as a legend is done, finished. And that hits different because most fighters hold on to that word like it's oxygen. But Mike Tyson treats it like yesterday's news. That kind of detachment shows a whole different level of self-awareness. Then he shifts into work ethic, pointing out that he doesn't see the same grind in today's gyms. And coming from someone who used to train like everything was on the line every single day, that carries weight. And then he drops something even deeper: fear. Not hype, not aggression, fear. Saying if you're not nervous, you're not built for this. That's the part casual fans miss. The best fighters aren't fearless. They're disciplined under pressure. Oh, now you've got Floyd Mayweather Jr. building machine-like endurance in the gym, while Tyson speaks like a man who trusts chaos more than structure. And that contrast alone is what makes this whole situation impossible to ignore.
Guys, one last question, okay?
What part fear plays in the career of a fighter?
Well, if you're not crazy and you're doing this, you're insane, okay? So I worry about guys that are not nervous before fighting because they'll never be a great fighter. Because when you're scared, you avoid pain, you avoid getting hit. And if you're one of those guys that have no fear, you're gonna constantly get hit. And you're not gonna end the game finish. By the time you finish fighting, you'll be talking another language. And that's what happens to those tough guys. And at the end of their career, they're speaking another language.
And just as Mike Tyson leaves us thinking about fear, discipline, and chaos colliding in the ring, Oscar de la Hoya steps in with a completely different energy. half amused, half analytical, and fully aware of how boxing operates behind the scenes, he casually labels a potential Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Manny Pacquiao rematch as entertainment. Not disrespectful, not overhyped, just real. A clean way of saying what most people avoid. But then he sharpens the point, adding that if it's a real fight with real rules, then it becomes a legitimate night for boxing. And that if carries serious weight. When De La Hoya leans toward Floyd winning, he doesn't base it on emotion or storyline. He points to discipline, the consistency, the habits, always training, always sharp, always prepared. And in a sport where everything can change in a second, that kind of discipline is what quietly separates the elite from everyone else.
Who do you think would win it? If it's a real fight, because that's what Pacquiao wants, it seems.
Yeah, I think Mayweather will. I think Mayweather will take it. Yeah, one thing about Mayweather you have to understand is he's always taking care of himself. Like his body, physically, mentally, he's always been very sharp and always staying in the gym and doing something physically, right? Mm. That's the big advantage he has. I mean, he's an athlete. He's a world-class athlete. Watching Pacquiao's last fight, yeah, you kind of feel.
And just like that, everything we've been saying about Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s training starts to make sense. It's not coincidence. It's a pattern. Then Oscar De La Hoya shifts the focus to Manny Pacquiao, and you can feel the respect mixed with reality. He admits this isn't the same Pacquiao he once faced. A quiet truth that hits harder because most people avoid saying it out loud. But Oscar doesn't stop there. He suddenly brings up Deontay Wilder, calling him an underachiever. It feels like a whole different conversation colliding into this one. He praises Wilder's raw, almost unreal power, then questions his activity level, pointing out that today's fighters compete too infrequently. And just like that, the conversation shifts from legends to an entire generation managing their careers cautiously, almost like a marathon with built-in pauses. That's what makes De La Hoya so compelling in these moments. He doesn't stay in one lane. He moves between nostalgia, business, predictions, and critique, speaking like a promoter, a fighter, and a fan all at once.
Man. Even though he did win and he did, I guess, pull off a surprise in his last fight with a draw against the world champion. But still, you tend to kind of like feel bad because it's not the same Pacquiao. It's definitely not the same Pacquiao I faced. That's for sure. The one that put me on my stool in the 9th round. But I still think that Mayweather will pull this one off. I mean,
and just as Oscar De La Hoya leaves us balancing nostalgia and reality, Dan Rafael steps in like someone who's already seen the script play out long ago. He cuts through the noise, saying, "This rematch isn't surprising," instantly dismissing the shock many fans are trying to build around it. While others react as if this came out of nowhere, Rafael's perspective is simple. This isn't new. You just weren't paying attention. But then he shifts the angle entirely. Instead of treating it like a competitive debate, he frames it as a product. Not something meant for hardcore boxing fans analyzing scorecards late at night, but something designed for casual viewers scrolling for something recognizable and easy to watch. And that changes everything. Because now the question isn't whether the fight is competitive, it's whether it's recognizable. And in that sense, Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao still carry the kind of global name value that functions like a brand.
That's scrolling through Netflix to see what's on a weekend night. They're going to look and say, oh, Mayweather, Pacquiao, I know those guys. They're as famous as any boxers in the world. And if it doesn't cost me any extra money and I'm just paying my normal subscription, yeah, I'll check it out. And it's going to do big numbers. That's why Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson did the numbers it did. And that's why, we saw them be interested in a fight like Jake Paul against Anthony Joshua and the other events that they have done. Tyson Fury's come back as they try to, build up more in the UK. And this is
Dan Rafael even acknowledges that the original fight shattered every major record. But years later, the focus has shifted. It's no longer about breaking records, but about sparking curiosity. That he reinforces this with an MMA comparison involving Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano, highlighting the psychology behind these matchups. People aren't always chasing peak competition. They're drawn to familiar names and a reason to click. And then comes the contradiction Dan subtly exposes. Even the hardcore fans rolling their eyes, they're still going to watch. Boxing fans, he implies, are like addicts. We complain, we debate, we criticize, and then we show up anyway. While some are judging this matchup like it's still 2015, Dan is looking at it through a 2026 lens, treating it as business, not nostalgia. And that's the part many people aren't ready to admit.
They put out a lot of money to do the fight, but not as much as what obviously they generated in 2015. And, it'll be a big event, but how much of a fight it will be, who the heck knows? But I mean, to answer the question, I'm not like looking forward to it, but it's one of those things that, you got to write about, you got to cover, and you got to, be involved in, because it's still two of the greatest, most famous fighters of all time.
When you zoom out, this entire situation feels less like a single fight buildup and more like three different realities colliding at once. You've got Floyd Mayweather Jr. in the gym, moving like a machine that refuses to age, protecting that 50-0 like it's a living legacy. Then there's Mike Tyson, bringing raw, unpredictable energy, someone who doesn't try to outthink the moment, but trusts that chaos will eventually break structure. Oscar de la Hoya steps in and grounds everything, reminding everyone this is still a business wrapped in nostalgia, where discipline outweighs emotion and habits outlast hype. And then Dan Rafael pulls the curtain all the way back, pointing out that this isn't just for hardcore fans anymore. It's a global product built to spark curiosity, not chase perfection. That's the real twist. This isn't trying to be the best fight. It's aiming to be the most watched moment. And somehow, all of it exists at the same time. Legacy, money, discipline, chaos, and entertainment all tangled into one event that people will question all week and still watch the second it begins. That's boxing in this era. Messy, unpredictable, a little ridiculous, but impossible to ignore.
For millions of people who are going to tune in to watch Pacquiao Mayweather. Again, it is not being put on Netflix for you or me or the folks that watch Boxing Social or all the diehards. It's for
casual.
Me and my reaction to the announcement of that MMA fight they're doing. And that was my epiphany.
Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who does this favor? Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s control or Mike Tyson's chaos? And do you see this as a true competitive fight or just the biggest spectacle